to start this, so that's we can figure that out going forward to different meetings. But for this one, we should probably do some form of introduction so that someone has some idea of who's talking. So Scott and I will start, and then we can go around, just so, because I don't think there's a good way to do team numbers attached to names or anything either. So we have some idea of who we are, what regions, kind of where we're from, that kind of thing. So I think most of you know who I am. I'm Alan Gregory. I'm the head coach for Spectrum, Team 3847 here in Houston, Texas. I've been doing FRC since 2003 when I was a student, so a long time. We've had different versions of this mentor workshop thing going on with Scott and I hosting here in Texas every 2 years since 2012. So this is the fifth rendition, I think, fifth?
I think fifth.
Yeah, something like that. This one's definitely a little different. They'll be virtual since we can't all be at the same place right now. And a lot of what we want to do is make sure that we're making these useful and informative for the people who join. We want to build more of a community in Texas so people know they have people to talk to and has questions, because we all know FRC is really hard. So our goal is to make it easier and have better, more productive teams around the entire state. And we may get some guests from other regions at different points. I know a couple people asked to join that aren't from Texas, so we may see some people from Louisiana and Oklahoma and some other places. But yeah, Scott, you want to introduce yourself?
So I'm Scott Ripito. I'm the lead mentor for Texas Torque 1477 in the Woodlands. I got involved in FIRST for the second time in 2007 when my son joined Northside Roboteers, and that turned into Texas Torque. But my earliest connection goes back to 1998 when I worked with a team, and actually one of my students was the programmer for a team in 1997. So I have a little bit of history there. I thought FIRST was crazy expensive back then, and it was, but I've come around. It's money. It's incredibly well spent. I can't think of anything better we can do with our money almost at the school level than what we're doing with the kids, the impact it has. So.
Okay, so next question is the best way to go about introducing everyone else.
Let's do it alphabetically. It's on the right side. Okay.
The next part, yeah, the people list has this nice alphabetical list. So I think first up, I don't know if everyone has mics. If not, let us know. But Amy Clymer, you're the first up. I don't know if everyone actually has mics that work.
Okay.
Okay.
How about Andrew Hartnett next?
Hey everyone.
Hi.
You're muted.
Yeah.
You might be muted.
Right.
There he's good.
Yeah. Hi everyone. I'm Andrew Hartnett. I'm the lead mentor for 5414 Paradox. I started as a student in 2005, mentored for a little bit in college, then took a couple years off, and then joined back in 2011 with 2936, and then helped start Paradox in the summer of 2014 for our 2015 year. So been neck deep in it since then, for sure.
Yeah, and doing a pretty good job too.
Thank you. We tried.
Yeah,
it's been an exciting couple of years for sure.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Amy Clymer is the mentor for. Well, now it disappeared. Oh wait.
Yeah, actually, I think I'm off mute now.
All
right?
You're off.
Hey, magic of technology. Hey, everyone. I'm Amy Clymer. I'm one of the mentors for 4192 Jaguar Robotics, and I've been mentoring them for a few years. And I am been involved with FIRST for about 9 years, but FRC for about the past 4.
Awesome. Thank you, Amy.
Yep.
Where's 4192 anyway?
North Texas.
Okay.
Flower Mound. Yep.
Ah. Yep.
All right. Next up is Brad. You kind of gave us somewhat of an introduction already.
Yeah, howdy. My name is Brad Bilodeau. I was the head coach for 4063, the Bunnies, for, 8 years. I think I started in 2011, maybe. I retired from teaching. I retired from everything. And then RoboVikes are getting a brand new facility, new layout, full field, full engineering. So I came out of retirement and moved to Fort Worth. Glad to be.
That's pretty great. All right, Chad, you're next.
Chad Robertson. I am a mentor for the Pantherbots Team 2582 out of Lufkin, Texas. I actually live in Katy, but drive up there on the weekends for some strange reason. But I just can't leave my old team.
It works. I get to see Chad a lot. He comes by our shop and cuts things on our router.
You're always welcome at our shop too, Chad.
Appreciate it.
Like, you could just stay.
He makes our router better. It's fine. I like when he comes by. He fixes things.
Evan.
Yeah.
Lost my mute there. Hi, yeah, Evan Marchman. So I'm lead mentor for the Howdy Bot 6377 here in Austin, and guess I've been doing this now since 2017 season, and going strong and looking forward to more.
All right, and I see a Guido climber.
Yes. Yes, I'm a Guido Climber. I'm with 4192. Amy is the lead mentor, and I'm one of the helpers alongside her. So.
That's pretty much how it always is.
Yeah.
All right, Josh.
Hi, I'm Josh Eversman. I was on Team 2583 out of Austin from 2009 to 2012, and then if y'all know me, it was probably from after that I became a referee and then head referee for FRC. And then this previous year, I decided to go back and help out my old team again. So I'm a mentor for 2583 now. But competitions all got canceled before I went to one. So I haven't actually coached an event yet. I've just gone to their meetings for a little while now. So
Yeah,
I still don't know what I'm doing.
Well, and y'all did all right too, I think, just recently.
Yes, you did.
Yeah, I have as a mentor, I have received chairmans at 2 out of 0 events. So I'm the winningest mentor ever, I think.
2 out of 0 events. That is true. That is
Yeah. Wow.
All right, Maria.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Maria. Some of you who know me as a VC down here in Texas. I took actually a job out of the state, so I actually live in California, but Texas is home, so I'm always back here for whatever reason. I'm advised 6800, and I mentor 254.
Very cool.
Wow.
All right.
Yeah, the rich got richer.
How about Michael?
Yeah.
Hi, Mike Krantz, mentor in 4206 at Nolan Catholic here in Fort Worth. Been doing that since either 15 or 16, can't quite remember. Been involved in FRC since 06 when I was a student.
And you know Brad Bilodeau?
Was part of his kidnapping committee.
Okay.
He's got Stockholm syndrome now, though, so it's all good. Everybody's happy.
Well played, sir. Well played. Michael Reffler.
Hi, how are you? I'm Michael Reffler. I'm originally from Mar. I moved to Texas 5 years ago, and I have founded 1089 up in Mar, and I'm currently working and mentoring 5411, but you'll see me everywhere I can get to all year round. And I got started in FIRST in 2002.
All right. Thank you.
Phil?
Phil.
Okay. Hi, I'm Phil So. I've been involved in FRC since the 2012 season. And my sons and I were involved with FLL since a few years before that and have continued to have a strong involvement in that. I've lost track of how many teams now due to either teams folding or just moving around Houston or changing jobs and such. Yeah, it's a small world. Like, I ran into the Rufflers on the first day of a Caribbean cruise when it was safe to go on those things.
That is absolutely true. I remember meeting you on the cruise ship. That's right.
All right.
Rachel Alexander.
Maybe not.
Okay. How about Rachel Moore? Oh, she's here.
Hi, Rachel.
Yeah, sorry guys. My name is Rachel Alexander. I'm also in the Houston region. I'm the lead mentor for Team 5892, the Energy Heroes. I've been mentoring in the Houston area since 2013. That's my first season. Alan got me hooked, so thanks for that.
You're welcome. All right, Rachel Moore. Nope. You're muted. There we go. Nope. Still can't hear you.
The infamous double mute.
Double mute. Okay, now I'm good.
You must have said some really bad things before.
It's true. It is true about me. So we got the convention of the Rachels over here. I'm originally from the Houston area. I did first as a high school student with the Robonauts in early 2000s, and then I moved to Lubbock and started 1817 with Sam Black over here, who was helpful that year. We wouldn't have made it without you. And then I'm currently located in North Texas, and I'm with 3005.
All right.
Richard Marcus.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Ricky Marcus. I guess I got my start in FRC in 2006 with 1745's rookie season. That was my senior year of high school, so I was away for a bit after that, and I came back to mentor 1745 in 2016. So I've been around mentoring for like 5 years now.
All right. Thank you. Robin Ann. Maybe still muted? Not popping up on my... There we go.
Here she is. Unless she's double muted.
Can't hear you, Robin.
Not working.
All right,
Okay.
Sam.
Come back, Robin, if you get your mic working.
Okay, I'm Sam Black. Yeah, I got roped into all of this back when 1817 got started. I took some time off, and then got pulled into FTC somewhere along the way, and then now we have a team at Lubbock High School, 4717, since God knows when. Yeah.
And Scott Brondell.
Hi, I'm Scott Brondell, technology mentor with 6277 HowdyBots in Austin. The 20 Instant Recharge is my second season as a mentor, and before that, I did a couple years of First Lego League judging. Right.
Okay. Stuart Rampy.
Hey everybody, Stuart Rampy. I'm the lead mentor of 1745 up in Richardson. I've actually got you guys on one monitor and my school board on the other monitor. Thank you, Rachel. Thank you, Ricky. Parents are great for letting the school board know, hey, you might not want to do that. Anyway, I got involved in FIRST 2004 with 1296 over in Rockwell. My senior year through college, I helped found 1745 Ricky's senior year, and I've kept myself up there with help of Rachel and others up here in the North Texas to keep that team going. So, hey everybody.
Thank you, Stuart. Susie. Okay. Oh,
there's she.
No.
Hey, okay, I started out in 2007 with as parent mentor for Austin Cans 2158, And then I grew up in 2009 to be Lady Can's Girl Scouts 2881 mentor. And we're definitely a FIRST family with VC, Allison Rich in Houston, and David Rich as mentor for 2881. So been around a long time.
Thank you, Susie. And I think, Xavier, you're the end of the list. I think at least one person got added at that time.
Hey, guys. I'm Xavier Eldridge. Started FRC in 2009 with 2587 Disco Bots. And that was like my one and only year as a student. And then I went off to college at LSU, kind of helped from afar with them. And then I started 4209, the Tiger Bites, my junior year. So I think that was like 2012. And then came back to Houston, helped out with Disco until 2016, where I started Audiobots 5829. And that's where I've been ever since.
I forgot you did 4209. I completely forgot about that.
Yeah.
I think
Alyssa. Alyssa came in.
Okay.
Hey y'all, my name is Alyssa Hedge. I am the business marketing mentor for the HowdyBot 6377. I was a fan during Steamworks and then thought I would be helping part-time, and then found myself power up becoming a full-time mentor, and completely drank the Kool-Aid and fell in love with FIRST.
Awesome. Okay, so I think that's everyone. Anyone we missed, speak up now.
Well, did Rachel Alexander get her mic working?
Rachel did. Yeah. It was someone else who.
Oh, I thought. Oh, okay.
It was Robin Ann.
Robin Ann, that's who it was.
I don't know, but I can speak to her because she's my wife, actually.
Well, okay, you go ahead and speak on her behalf.
House. And we were both co-founders of 1089 back in 2002 before we moved to Texas, and we're both with 5411 now.
Okay. That functions. Okay, so not every meeting we're going to do this just because it would take a long time, but we do want to make sure we're getting as many people to know kind of who we are, and so if we're talking, whatever, we can have some idea and meet each other again when we actually get to do events and have in-person type things. So today we figured we'd talk about how everyone is kind of handling having to switch to virtual relatively quickly and having to do any sort of summer and possibly more of the off season virtually than we've ever had to do before. So I think part of some of the stuff that Scott and I kind of discussed that we were going to talk about are how our team's meeting and ideas for getting more students involved. So I guess I'll start and kind of kick this off. So most of what Spectrum's been doing has been over Zoom and our Slack channel. So we've had kind of during the school year, it was just kind of regular kind of check-in stuff. We really didn't do a lot of robots. We weren't doing much of anything. We were just kind of meeting and talking on Zoom. Right about the end, we did do a Zoom party. So we figured out, we had a bunch of parents volunteer where they made gift bags for all the students, and we got like neighborhood captains together to figure out how to distribute them safely. And including in that was like a mask for each of the kids and everything too, and some of the games and things to do. So we were able to go through and have kind of like our end of year celebration over Zoom, which worked out well. And then since school's let out, we've been doing kind of like 3 meetings a week over Zoom, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, just because that's when the kids wanted to be able to do it. Our Tuesday meeting is fun. We do show and tell. We do show and tell now. So then the kids can bring what other project they're working on, either it's for robots or not, whatever they've been doing over the week. We've had pets come on. We had a lizard and a guinea pig. We had book reviews and like show reviews during it. We've had all sorts of stuff. There's kind of replacing some of the stuff we would get normally in like our lab time and interacting with the kids that we don't get at all. Just if the Zoom is only robots, and it's got like more of the kids engaged and happier to do it. So that's most of what we've been doing. We still haven't figured out super well on how they still do a lot of the robot stuff. They've done some of it, but not nearly as much as I'd like. So that's one of the things we're going to keep working on. Scott, anything you want to add?
I'll just add, we haven't So I describe to my students that I do a lot of planting of seed. So I'll suggest something to them, and then I want them to run with it. And so that's the way it was with once kind of spring break ended, and I mentioned to our team president, I said, we need to start having leadership meetings and then start having team meetings. And he said yes, and that's one of the last times I heard from him. And so I kept kind of looking for ways to get involved, and about the same time, I was contacted by 2 doctors that were looking for PPE and some help making it. And so so I started working on that, and Lucian Junkin started working on that. And then as it started to take off a little bit, I got our team involved. And so I've got 20 3D printers feeding into my house, printing PP face shields, the headband part for face shields. And so that's been our big project. And then we do some other little things, like ear savers for the surgical mask. And we actually built several models of an intubation chamber so that the doctors are protected while they're trying to intubate a patient. We filed a patent for it, and now we've just sort of I've been trying to figure out how we're going to do kind of an end of year ceremony or celebration for the seniors. And Alan mentioned some things that they did, but I talked about some things too. So maybe get some ideas from y'all about how maybe some of you have handled that with your seniors leaving, because we usually have a banquet, but we weren't able to do that this year.
So yeah, so I guess at this point it's more like, do people have specific questions they want to talk about? There's some other topics that we'll hit as well, but kind of around how teams are virtually meeting or ideas that they've had that worked.
I can share a couple of things that we've done. So one of the things I think we were only able to do because we had a very small group of seniors. We only had about 6 seniors. But I really like the concept for 2468's signing day thing. And so basically what I did was just have a senior virtual day. And so I took a minute or 3 minutes or whatever and talked about each student or each senior and how they contributed, and like a little bit about just my perspectives of what they contributed to the team. And then I wasn't really sure what to expect, so I thought maybe this will be like 15-20 minutes, and that's fine. But then afterwards I opened it up to the seniors if they had anything they wanted to share. And that was kind of interesting because only one of the students was a 4-year student, and everybody else was like, oh, I wish I joined earlier. And I'm like, oh, this is great. I can't wait to clip this video and have this recording of these kids saying, oh, they wish they would have joined earlier, or all the different things that they said that I'm like, okay, I'm going to point this to all the freshmen and sophomore and say, hey, here's a senior that's only a couple years older than you, and what they had to say about joining the team and what they wish they would have been more involved with or whatever. And so that was really great. And I got some feedback from some of the parents that was special to the parents as well, just to hear some of those things. But for people that have like 10, 15 seniors, that might be hard. You might want to break it up into 3 different days. I think this is going to be something that I continue in the future and still try to have some kind of recording of it. I put it up, I think, unlisted on our YouTube thing and maybe shared it on our Facebook page or something like that. And I tried to have a thing for each student too, of like, a little piece of paper I held up of where it is that they're going off to college or whatever. But that ended up being, I think, more fun than I thought it was going to be. We also, I was texting with Sue-Ann, one of the parents/mentors at Spectrum, about their end of year banquet, and we took a lot of those ideas as well. We had like a bingo thing. I left the Zoom call open for the kids afterwards, and apparently they were up until like 5 or 6 in the morning karaokeing like Frozen songs and stuff. So like, I don't know, whatever. But there were also good things that I learned from that virtual banquet that I'm going to take into the future as well. I always have like a goofy award that I give out to every kid. Like I just basically make a meme personalized to every student, kind of poking fun of something, either poking fun of about the student or a situation or whatever. And the kids have always seemed to kind of like those memes that they get for the end of the award banquet. And it worked out really well because I just had a presentation slide rather than like waiting for a kid to come up. So in the future, I think I'll do the same thing where I just have a presentation slide and like hand each student the award afterwards or something like that and save some time. But that was pretty fun. But the big thing that I've really learned throughout all the meetings, and a lot of it probably depends just on how big the team is or how many students you get showing up, but we'll have 20, 30 students sign on for our first couple of meetings, and just like nobody would say anything. It was just me talking and nobody's got their cameras on. I don't know if anything's meaningful, if they're just zoning out or what. And like I'd ask and they'd be like, oh no, this is great. And I'm like, okay, well, I don't feel like it's great. And so what I ended up doing, and I don't know if it's because I paid the whatever cost it is to get the Zoom for the month-to-month thing or whatever, but I've got breakout rooms now that I can do where I can put 5 or 6 students into a room. And so what I do is I break out the room into 7 or 8 different breakout rooms, each with just 5 or 6 students. I try to make sure if we've got enough mentors, I'll put a mentor in each room, or I just try to make sure there's a veteran student in each room. And I give them a topic to talk about for 5 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever, depending on how many topics I want. And then we come back and each room kind of shares the highlights of what their conversation was. And that's been much more engaging. And I've had a lot more success at getting the students engaged by just breaking them up into small rooms. And I'm sure that there's ways to do that without a breakout room in Zoom. It just might be a little bit more hassle. The nice thing with the Zoom breakout rooms is I can like just join a room and listen for a couple minutes, then hop out and leave. I can broadcast a message to all of them, things like that. So that's definitely a key thing that I've learned. And so we're now doing breakout rooms and trying to figure out how are we going to be training new students. I did a Zoom webinar thing for all of the new prospective students, and we had like 40 people sign up and listen in on that, and we still have like 15 people that are expressing interest in joining our team over the summer. And so I'm working with the veteran students via Zoom to figure out how can we try to virtually train them and do some of the things that we would normally do in person over Zoom. So the kids have been doing pretty good with that, especially once I can break them up into small groups.
Hey Andrew, what are the topics that y'all talk about in your breakout rooms?
I can let me pull that up, and actually I can tell you some specific ones later, or I can just post it in the chat later. But what I'll do is like I think, for instance, this past week I gave them a topic of, okay, one of the things that we do every year for our training is I call it a round robin day. And typically what it is it's one 8-hour day, and just each session like is 15 minutes, and they do a session, rotate to another session for 15 minutes, then we get together for a team activity. And then we do 2 more sessions, then lunch, and then do the same thing in the afternoon. But if we do this all virtually, I don't want it to just be 15 minutes of presentation slides for each group. That's going to be boring. Like nobody's going to like that, especially not an 8-hour day. So this last time we broke out into rooms, and I asked them, how long of a day do we want it to be? Do we want it to be 1 hour max, 2 hour max, whatever? Brainstorm some ideas of like what would make it more engaging. Do we want to include some kind of like Kahoot quiz as part of it? Do we want to just have videos? Do we do Q&A? What kind of things would make that more engaging for both the veteran students teaching the topic and the new students trying to learn it? And then what are the key topics that we really want to cover? But what I'll do, we have a meetings recap in our Slack channel, and I've been asking them to post their breakout room recaps as well in the meeting recap. So I'll post in the chat some of the different topics that I've given them in the breakout rooms.
I just wanted to agree with what Andrew was saying, because I just started doing that with we're working on the telethon for HowdyBots, and just recently what we've been doing is we've been meeting over Zoom. I don't know if that's is that my thing causing that noise?
Oh no.
Okay. At any rate, but what I have been doing now is I've started to, we haven't been using the breakout rooms in Zoom, but in Slack, you can start multiple phone calls in the same channel. And I've had really good luck with the same thing. The students were really quiet when we were all together, but once I started grouping them in rooms saying, okay, you guys, like 2 veteran students or what have you, go off in a room for 15 minutes. Why don't y'all work on this? Come back to me when you're done. And then when they're done, I've been, regrouping students. So, okay, Mackenzie came back to me. Thank you for working with those students. Why don't now you and Emily go and work on this? So it's been really effective. We've been getting so much more work done. Even though we're only meeting for an hour 20, the kids are working the entire time, and they've been asking me for meeting recaps. They've been a lot more just happier to be involved, more alert, more engaged. And so I think it's been giving them nice social time. And whether in Zoom breakout rooms, which I've also used in school, or the Slack calls, it allows us to move very nimbly back and forth. So I can jump into Slack and check in, how are y'all doing? But yeah, so Andrew's method's been really great. I've had good luck with it too.
Anyone else have any questions about how teams are meeting or?
So one of the things we did for 4192 in terms of a banquet or recognizing your seniors is we actually had like a drive-through. We have a circular where the buses come through, and so we actually had the seniors come in their cars, and we had a table where we stood behind. We had some gift bags prepared, and they actually came through. It was like a little procession of the seniors driving, and we had cars lined up facing it so that you could either stand out or sit out, so we were still socially distanced, but for the most part. But then people were honking horns and congratulating them, and so there was like the parents and some of the other students in the club were there supporting, and the seniors basically drove through and picked up their gift bags. So we had like a drive-through celebration of our seniors, and that followed what we did was a virtual banquet online, and the kids put together like slides and mementos, pictures, etc. And actually them putting it together was neat because then they told us what the meaning of the pictures were, and so anyway, it was a positive experience, but it was definitely very different than in person. But being able to see them and to celebrate them, even if they were in their cars, was still positive.
Kind of extending on that drive-through theme that Amy was just talking about, perhaps you can do something like what I heard about a few days ago here in Houston. Like all the bars and theaters and all that are shut down, and so you can't see shows, you can't see bands, nothing. But someone has got this event where they have, I think it's at Minute Maid Park in one of the parking lots, and they set up 3 stages, and when you come in, you park your car somewhere facing the stages, and they give you a set of headphones, and you can switch between the sound from any of the 3 stages. And so they're doing kind of a drive-in concert, and so there's 2 bands and a DJ. So like with what Amy's team was doing, like I gather their event is done, but potentially, if you're doing a drive-through, you're all there, you can kind of maybe do something else with you all sitting in your car.
The Lady Cans have 7 Zoom meetings a week. We are doing programming and then testing code on the robot. And then we have, so that's a meeting for programming, a meeting for code test, a meeting for CAD, a meeting for leadership, a meeting for chairmans, 2 meetings for what we call build, which is basically a review of parts and pieces and tools and what do they actually do. And then on Saturdays, we have what we call Lunch with the Lady Cans, where the girls just get together and talk and do goofy things while they eat lunch and just talk to each other. We've also made the seniors yard signs, and we did drive-bys and showered our seniors with attention. And but we've been very active all summer.
So how do you said they were testing the programs on the robot. So how's that happening?
Hey, you're talking to so they put the code somewhere, and then they download the code to the robot. They take control of David's computer and the driver station in the garage, and they tell David what the code is supposed to do, and he protects the walls. and then the robot moves or doesn't move, and then they fix the code as a group, and then they redeploy and test again.
Okay.
Yeah, actually, I'll give an example of that one. So we, fortunately, since our shop is independent, we can open the doors. David brought the robot over to our shop this past weekend for the lady cans, and set up the webcam, so they could see down the field, see the power port, and they were testing. In this case, it was testing, get autonomous shots into the power port and adjusting different algorithms they had for aiming and for speed of the flywheels and things like that. So he had a hit between the webcam he had set up and another camera. He'd hit enable. They'd have loaded code through the dashboard through a remote link, and then he'd hit enable or put the robot where it needs to go, and they'd be able to see what happens, make a change, try it again. It appeared pretty effective from a spectator's view. We've tried a few similar things with the Howdy bots, where we've had a mentor, and it's been a mentor and a mentor's child who is also on the team at the shop, and said, okay, here's this. What do you want us to test? Like we're testing some thermal throttling controls for the Falcon 500s. Trying different code things, testing the limits, things like that. So where we can have a person at the shop, or a person or two, and then a webcam and Zoom sessions, or whatever else. There's a lot of ways to cover that.
It's pretty cool. One of the other things we've done is we've started doing design reviews of our past robots, because I realized a lot of our kids see the past robots but don't actually know how they're built or why we made design choices. So one of the first ones from our 2015 year was posted on YouTube recently, so people can see how I do it. But basically, it's just me going through describing a lot of it, them asking questions, because they've seen a lot of these robots or kind of know what they exist, but have never actually weren't there for them to be built or compete or anything. So that has been useful for them to kind of see a lot more of.
Oh man, I'm so excited to watch this. Alan talks about his old robots for an hour and a half.
It's me making fun of how bad we were in 2015, or how I should not have been allowed to be involved in that design of that robot.
Who was good in 2015?
2015 was a bad
We just
year.
forget 2015.
Were good in 2015. I was not one of those people.
Robots were good in 2015.
Robo Wranglers, they showed up.
Yeah, there were, yeah, it was Robots World Title year. There were some good robots. Just did not include ours. Okay, so what were some other things? Other things on our list are kind of how people are doing some collaborative CAD stuff. I know a lot of people are excited about doing Onshape because you can do it collaboratively and it can all be web-based, so students don't need to be in the same place. I don't know if anyone has any things to say about that.
So we're trialing 3005 is looking at Onshape this year. I don't know that we'll switch, but it's maybe. And then, but the thing I really like about it, and that maybe the one really good thing that's come out of Corona so far, is that we were at a school where very few of our students had laptops and most didn't have internet at home anyway. And now 100% of DISD students have Chromebooks and hotspots. So there's a lot of stuff we couldn't do before, which is now an option, which is kind of cool.
That is a pretty cool bright side of this whole thing. Yeah, we're in a similar place where we're not sure if we're switching to Onshape or not. We've been a SolidWorks GrabCAD team for a very long time, and we'll probably continue that way for at least a little while. We're trying to figure out if we're going to switch to Onshape or not. Kids are actually pushing back on not wanting to do it, so we may not.
We've used Onshape for the last 2 years, and it's really helped as far as student interaction and collaboration with us. A lot of it because I'm remote all the time anyway, so it really helps us a lot. But it's a pain learning how to do the assembly, but everything else I like better in it, to be honest.
It comes with source control. That's nice.
Yep.
Yeah.
As somebody that isn't any good at CAD, Onshape's been great for me. So that's been a very useful thing for me, and I feel like I can help students a lot better in Onshape than I was able to in Inventor or SolidWorks. So.
Yeah, the included source control is going to be really huge. We had kids that really struggled with keeping GrabCAD in sync, and they, especially because they're not using their own computers, they have to use a unified account across school computers, and it ended up being a lot of my time unforking GrabCAD.
That's a common theme. We actually bit the bullet and went with SolidWorks PDM, which has a lot of negatives, but it has one really big positive, and that is it checks your cross references. So it saved us from a lot of stepping on our own tail.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those products. Once you set it up and get working, don't touch it ever again. When you get to that point, it's been effective.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm one of the biggest Onshape proponents out there, and I spent some time talking with 3005 and hope they switch. But 7045 has been using it for 3 years, and we'll never go back.
Yeah, thanks again, Ricky. You were very generous with your time talking to our students, and so they're pretty excited about it. They keep asking for homework. I've just been lazy and haven't given them any homework yet.
Awesome.
One of the other things I meant to bring up earlier, one of the things we do in Slack to keep people kind of involved, especially it doesn't have to be at a specific meeting. We just did one today for the first time in a couple of weeks. I'll find cool robot photos that I'm like, oh, this robot's interesting. And I'll just post the photo in like our mechanical section or somewhere in Slack and basically just tell the kid, describe everything you see. So they just get used to being able to be like, oh, this is, all right, this thing has a turret and it's powered by this thing, trying to go through and kind of have them break down other people's robots as much as they can so they can learn.
I like that. That's a good idea.
How to do how other people did it. So there's interesting things like, point out materials, point out how they built stuff, motor usage, however they design stuff, things that are different design philosophies than your team normally uses, and just kind of get them to generate questions too. Because a lot of describe everything you see, but if you don't know what you see, ask the question about it. If you're not sure what this is, ask. So that is a fun little Slack thing that we do that doesn't have to be everyone involved at the same time. You can just kind of post it when you're off doing something and let it sit for a while and let them post away and then go back in and answer and give more details if you know them.
How far do you take that? It's one thing for the student to say, oh, that's an over the bumper intake with, a pair of rollers. It's quite another to say, oh, look at that. That mechanism has these potential flaws, or look at how the belts or chains running it look like they're way too slack. It's one thing to recognize the mechanism. It's quite another to recognize the quality of the design or construction.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on what the kids are looking at. So it depends on what photo it is. But yeah, there's definitely ones where ooh, we would do this, or how would we do the same thing if we were trying to accomplish this? What materials would we use? How would we build the same thing? What are places we know we would want to improve? And so it depends on the level of the kid too, how much experience they have. Are they able to point out flaws? It's definitely harder, but I'll go in and detail some things where I'm like, yeah, this is, or their power switch is unprotected. I would be worried it would get hit by a ball, that kind of thing. We would catch a lot of different details. But just having it at all is useful. We also try to regularly post interesting videos and stuff, and just giving kids more content to consume on their own time. So video of the day and stuff. If I remember, I'll get into spurts where I'm doing them every day, but I also forget a lot. But a lot of the the fun behind the design videos or behind the bumper videos to kind of go through and detail other teams' robots and how they actually build and design things. A lot of the design choices.
So I want to detour back to something that Rachel said as far as thank you, Rachel, for bringing back that memory I was trying to ignore. But the kids wanting homework thing, that's something that I've experienced as well, where we have kids that, say they want to have homework. And I'm going to detour myself here. One of the things that Kara found out recently is that sometimes when kids are talking about being bored, really what they might mean is that they're depressed. They just don't know how that manifests, and so they think they're bored because they they just don't have any motivation for anything. And I know for me as a mentor, sometimes I would get frustrated of like, you're bored, how are you bored? I can give you so many things to do and you don't do any of it. But a lot of times just trying to remember that like, that it may not really be that they're bored. Like they might be bored, but also they're just, stuck at home. They're a teenager stuck in their house with their parents or siblings or whatever. But the other thing that I found is a lot of times what they don't want homework, they want projects with instructions. They want to, walk through something and they want to learn from it, but they don't want to have to like struggle through it on their own necessarily. And so if anybody has any suggested like instruction projects or whatever, that would also be great. I know I've been trying to build up some training things, very low level things for Paradox. And in the process, I've also thought about, what would be some example projects I would give them of, trying to design like an elevator that could lift so much weight in a certain amount of time or anything like that. And then also try to go through and show how I might do that. But if any of those resources exist, I think there's like a 610 design tutorial that I think Alan's linked on their recommended resources, or maybe a couple of other things, but I would definitely be interested in knowing if anybody has any good resources for something like that. And the Onshape learning pathways I think have been great as well, because that's
what we're gonna do is for the CAD stuff. I'm just gonna start them on the Onshape learning.
Oh, lost Rachel.
Because the videos are really good. Generational thing, I think. But sorry.
No, you're back.
Oh, dropping out. Oh yeah. So the Onshape learning videos, which I'm going through right now, because even knowing Inventor very well, just reorienting yourself is difficult. And the videos are really good. They have little tests and stuff. So I think we're probably going to go down that route to start with on CAD, which is a really basic thing, which a lot of you guys probably can't take use of. I know our programming mentor has come up with like some really mini programming challenges, and he very much they like the gamification, and so we just have a scoreboard, and I want to find a better way to make that easier, so it's like less work on our part to maintain it. But they really like having a little scoreboard and getting points, even if the points mean nothing.
Interesting. Huh.
A little competition.
Meaningless points sound like fun. I can make up points.
Are the kids too young for Whose Line? Do they miss the reference?
I'm sure that they're too young for Whose Line.
Like I got the reference.
I think what Rachel is talking about is kind of analogous to what Karthik talks about, the SimBucks for their scouting.
Yep, and we actually started doing that this year, but got killed by Corona. So we did get some. We actually got like little Starbucks gift cards, and kind of like just encouraged if they were having good active communication about what was happening in matches, then they would get rewarded with these little gift cards. Which we were going to buy them Starbucks anyway as a reward. There's always the challenge on a team to balance the sexiness of the different roles. And for a while, scouting was the hotness on our team, and everyone wanted to be a scout. And then this last season, it was, for whatever reason, became not interesting anymore. And so then they all left scouting. So always little things.
Interesting. And then the other thing our team's been actually probably better at right now is getting a lot of our media stuff done. So we've had people working on making website improvements. We've had a couple of different videos done, like recap videos. They have that kind of time, and they're maybe more comfortable doing that on their own. So that stuff's been working pretty well.
And one of the things we were looking at trying, it hadn't been fully put together, so we'll see if it actually works. But we had actually, Scott and some of the kids come up with an improved scouting system for us to use this year. And we kind of got through that first event, but found things we wanted to improve. But we realized that would be a great opportunity over the summer here to have a team scouting session where we do some curated videos of matches and have everybody, scout, because we can all do it from home on the app, and not only get some training in, but also test the software and do some other things. You're limited in the views you can see, but I think we're hoping it can be useful.
I mean, I think that was a takeaway from the state championship last year, is that because of the super limited seating, I know that 148 did a significant amount of their scouting from the hotel room, and it was nothing but positive feedback from that team on that, because if you miss something, pause and rewind and get it right.
Yeah.
Or if you want to take a bathroom break, pause.
Okay, so I think we're at our hour. So I think that's in theory the session that we were held for, but I'm also not planning to hang this call up anytime soon. Are there
Well, I was
things
going to
that-
say one of the things that Alan and I had talked about was we've been talking about activities to do during off season, but there aren't any off season events to go compete. And, you know, the reason why we would do the remix is because that's a time when people could bring in their students. And first of all, these kids haven't been to an event before, teams that haven't been to an event, or you just want to try out your new people. A lot of times that's how you figure out who your drivers and operators are, human players. So we're trying to figure out a way, how's that going to look in the fall, because we're certainly not going to be doing the remix. So
actually, that kind of brings up something interesting. I've been tossing around an idea, but I don't know how feasible it is, because if we'll even be allowed to do anything. But I think that if we're allowed to do anything in the fall, and if we're allowed to invite small groups over, even if it's just like a drive team per team or something like that, and we set up in the cafeteria and then just go down to the the Paradox, field or something with our wooden field, and just kind of like play a match with no scorekeeping, just play it. Nobody necessarily wins or loses or anything. You just get to play a match. Is that beneficial? Is that something that teams and people would want? Is it only beneficial if enough students can do it, or is it beneficial even if it's just your drive team that goes and does it? And so I know
I've been thinking about what we can do for North Texas as well, because we don't have the same number of static fields that you guys have in Houston, so that's a different set of challenge. But I think there's value in that. I think I was just playing around with my head, and it's very much off the cuff, is FTC does these league meet type things where they go to multiple weekends and they play a couple of matches each weekend, and you kind of total it up and get some winners out of it, right? We could do something similar with an extended timeline event where we can get a lot more kids exposed, but still in small groups.
So Rachel, 4206 will have a full field at Owen Catholic this year. So the building should be done this week, and then of course getting it all set up. But hopefully, coming into the season, we'll have a full field set up and forward.
That would be awesome.
I haven't dug into it, but my understanding is that FLL is going virtual or something weird like that for this coming year. And so I wonder if, especially around the Houston area with the number of, static fields that are available, can something be done that way where, say, several teams at a time get access, and for, say, 2 hours or 3 hours or something like that, and you go and run as many matches as possible and do the best you can, and you put up your best score, and then some other group has gone and put up their best score, and they did that at a different location at a different time. I think it's now been a couple months ago, about a month and a half ago, they did kind of a season wrap up of FLL that was virtual. One of the guys who volunteers at a lot of our Houston area FRC events, he's really big time in the FLL world, and he was the virtual referee. So you have teams from
I know
all
that
over
model had been figured out. Like, I know they do it with really remote FLL teams. They have done that previously where they have a remote reffing, which is kind of interesting. And I heard the same thing, that FLL may be a more virtual program this year.
Reffing for FLL means something very different than reffing.
Yes.
Correct. That's not going to necessarily work for FRC. But if you time extend it, you can still be in a situation where you have less people per the space, right? I can imagine us living in a world that in fall we can have groups of 200 maybe. But I don't know how to say right now in the fall, and we don't have a crystal ball, but right now I don't see how we can say with any confidence we could have a groups of thousands in the fall, right?
Yeah, it's a shame that this past season we went to reduced student participation and then outright canceled on the same day instead of getting to trial run the drive teams only event. because who knows what that would be like.
Yeah.
Well, and we may find, I mean, that's a possibility for this spring also.
Yep.
Yeah. I think what Andrew said about having kind of like a scrimmage where, like we'd go down to 118's place, you know, and you'd bring your drive team, but then a bunch of other people would want to go because they want to be down there at Building 9. But, you know, we could do something like that 2 or 3 weekends in the fall where, you know, 3 other teams or 4 other teams or 5 other teams come in, and like Andrew was saying, set them up out in the hallway where they have tables, people are separated, and then they can come out and, you know, practice on the field and get some experience. And it also lets coaches get an idea of, you know, who they might have as their drivers for the upcoming year as their drive team.
I think this could be a bit of a silver lining if we do what Scott was just talking about, you know, and what Rachel was talking about, you know, doing more of this scrimmaging. Because the one year that I was mentoring a team out at the Katy STEM Center, where at that time there was 5 teams in total, you would think there would be a lot of scrimmaging going on. But the only scrimmaging that went on was one evening when I went and had these 2 kind of rookie or perpetual rookie level teams go, and we didn't even play against each other. I said, okay, let's just learn to work together so we don't get in each other's way around that airship. You know, all the other teams were just camped out in a corner trying to tune their autonomous shooting the fuel balls in, you know, and there's a lot of value to be had in that. Like I you know, having lived a long time in Toronto, I you know, have watched a lot of the reveal videos from the teams from out there, and you see these in the background, you know, so you watch a 610 video, you'll see 2 or 3 other robots kind of in the background. You know, the video's not focused on those robots, but they're just in the background. So and having talked to those teams when I've gone to visit, they do a heck of a lot more scrimmaging, so that when you see see match videos at their competitions with rookie teams, they don't look like they're learning to drive the thing for the first time. And you know, here we see even fairly established teams that were building right up to the bitter end. They show up at their competition, and yeah, they look like total rookies. So I think that's something we should just encourage and keep running, even if things open up.
You know, there's you said silver lining, and you were talking about rookies, and it made me think about you know, we have several rookie teams close to us, and it was really, really hard to get them to a point where they had a robot. I mean, 3 of the 4 teams were talking about dropping out. And, you know, Lucia had a little talk with them and they changed their mind. But they should have robots now, because they were set to compete, or they were very close to it. So it would be a great opportunity for them to get a lot of kind of driving practice in, because the game isn't changing that much. Josh may tell us some of the details. I don't know.
In my
Maybe
mind,
if I knew.
You think anyone knows details?
In my mind, this isn't even just for the rookies. Like the year I was working with Duchesne, they're not a rookie team. They've been around for a while, and we had every intent to either go up to Katy or go to your place there, and it just never worked out. But you know, they wanted to, but things dragged on, and they.
Well, that's reassuring. I thought it was us, because we invite a lot of people to come to our place, and then they don't show up, and it's like, did we do something? But
no, it's not you. It's not you. It's us.
So,
yeah,
and teams may be
I don't know
having
what
drivers
that-
graduating now, so anytime behind the sticks is always good.
I don't know what that challenge is, because we have the same problem. it's like the urgent versus the important, right? It's important to practice. It's probably more important to practice than to, other than just finishing something. But it always feels like when we have a weekend invite to go somewhere, there's always like, well, we'll go next weekend because we're just going to get this one piece a little bit better.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it is a lot of teams end up with concepts or designs that are overly ambitious. And so there is no time. And it isn't just going scrimmaging at Scott's place or out in Katy. Like out in Katy, last couple of years they had these kind of pseudo inspections, and I, having trained as an inspector, I've been one of the people that goes out there. And this last year, nobody was ready for inspection, not even the big teams. And I ended up going and inspecting their several practice bots and telling them, if you do this on your competition bot, this likely, may not be acceptable. So that's, but if people get into the mindset of, hey, we'll get an advantage out of having scrimmaged, then they may place more emphasis on getting done sooner, so that they do have time to do it.
So I'm gonna go back a little bit. I had a talk with some people from another team with like, hey, what makes it hard for you to come out to our facility to practice when we give an invite? And I wasn't sure if it's just transportation or whatever. And the feedback that I got was that they were afraid of showing up and being embarrassed because like they didn't have their bumpers ready or whatever. And like, if you showed up in practice, you probably would have been on the field more than us. Like, we didn't have a robot together yet. So like, don't worry about showing up and feeling embarrassed because like you're not ready. Chances are we're not ready either. And so I've been trying to stress more and more in my invites that it's like, hey, even if you're not ready, come on out. Like, I just don't feel like anything like makes people more urgent in their work and more like inspired and motivated to get their work done than knowing that they could be on the field if they just finished it. And so I've been trying to stress that more. I don't know if it's been any more helpful or not. But like, man, I felt like once we got to Plano and we had our robot not working, the kids were working way harder and way faster than any of the meetings leading up to Plano because we're at competition. Now we got to get it done and trying to get that mindset about like a scrimmage and show up. And even if you don't have bumpers, like I've got extra kids, we can help you. We've got material, whatever. We can help you make the bumpers ready. So I've been trying to stress that more and more. If I'm talking to somebody of like, hey, even if you're not ready, please just come out, check something against the field. Like I'd hate for you to finish your robot and then find out that like the field element was, or you built your field element to the wrong spec or something. So
yeah, no, I definitely, when we went out to Andrew's place twice this year, and both times they were like hard deadlines with the kids of like, this is the time we're leaving. This is the checklist of what has to be done by then. It needs to get done. But yeah, we went to their place with duct tape, pool noodle, and plywood bumpers because we definitely didn't have comp bumpers until the morning before we left for our real event. So
I think
that's smart to make an artificial deadline like that.
Yeah, I really want that for
so
the team.
I know
all the time.
in our school district, the teachers get stipends for supporting FIRST programs, and the way the stipends work are they are issued by level of participation, basically, of the team. So it's mostly designed around FL and FTC, and so FRC is kind of shoehorned in there. But for FTC and FLL, the teachers, a portion of their stipend is based on going to a scrimmage, right? So they get a portion of their scrimmage for going to the scrimmage, and then they get a portion for going to their first qualifier or whatever that structure it looks like, and then they get more if you advance, right? So is there a world, and I have no power at First in Texas to make anything like that happen, but especially for like our rookie and second year team grants, can there be a bonus if the spaces are available to them to go to a scrimmage?
That'd be cool.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I would like trying to work that in somehow into like the TARP grant, because I think that's a big deal too, is that like a lot of rookie and second year teams like don't get it. Like, why would I go show off my robot at another place or something? And if you
and the TARP grant, the TARP grant's its own level of frustration because that first year I've only had one team, and I think we've had 5 TARP teams in total since the program started, and I've only had one of those 5 actually believe us the first year that we're literally there to help them and we're only going to make them better and everyone else is only going to make them better, and keeping anything secret from us is actually not going to be a competitive advantage at all. Like, there was literally one, we got to competition, we were pulling teeth to get them to get stuff done. We got to competition. To the end of Thursday, the guy looks over and goes, "Huh, I guess you guys don't suck."
Kind of related to what Rachel just said, I get the impression that, since I've moved around to a lot of teams, I've kind of sensed that, yeah, some of these people, some of the team members and some of the adults kind of think that what they're doing is so super secret. But the reality is I've not been working with anybody that has won a blue banner. And so really, like, who are you going to copy? You're going to copy, Spectrum. You might copy something from Paradox. You're going to want to copy stuff from 118, 254.
I suggest not copying Paradox. You're much better off copying Spectrum or 118.
But yeah, getting people to understand that it's okay to not be secretive is what my mission for the last 8 years, and it's still really hard.
I can tell you from out here. Oh, sorry.
Okay.
I can tell you from out here that one of the big things is most everybody out here does best, and as we know, best is like every man for themselves, and whatever you can do to shank the guy next to you is on the table. And that was one reason why I was more than happy after so many years of doing that to transition over to FIRST. And I've got so many kids who come in from middle schools that do best that I've tried to get into FTC. But that's another story. Who, you start trying to teach them the different culture of we're all in this together, and we all get to help each other, and we all get to make better, a bigger circle of friends, and we all get better because of it.
Yeah, we saw that too, where we have our first mentee team, which is their first year in FIRST, but they have a long-standing tradition of competing in BEST, and they just switched over. And they were pretty competent on the mechanics side, and just, scaling up to a bigger bot wasn't that much of an issue, but it was the same thing, the change of the culture, and hey, we're here to help you be better, because if we need you on Alliance, it's to our advantage to make sure you are better. And trying to... Yeah.
Like, the Alliance bit is fine. It's the whole, we're all making this world better point that's the bigger picture, right? Like, the Alliance is whatever.
Yeah. But still, just getting them out of that us versus the world shell.
Just as an offside, I'm in grad school, and I was in an economic development class earlier when we were talking about clusters and the importance of competition and cooperation. And so I started talking about FIRST and cooperation. So it applies everywhere.
Yeah, when my boys were on the YMCA swim teams, it's not the highest level of competition. And so it was actually a lot like, it became, here in the Houston area, it became a lot like kind of being in FIRST. So we do the robotics, and then we switch to doing swimming and switch back and forth, and it always felt kind of the same. Whereas the people that advanced to the next higher level, it was really cutthroat. And so it ended up like when our team went to the state championship up in Plano, the other Houston kids would be, all the Houston kids would be giving each other thumbs up, regardless of what team they're on, at the starting blocks. And, it was very nice that way. And they would say, "Oh, that's another kid from Houston. We cheer for them." Kind of relating back to what we were talking about earlier, we're trying to get more teams to go in scrimmage. Is that something that, since the people on this call are all mentors, and hopefully you have some influence over what the team does, maybe at the high level, then maybe, something we can try is kind of, hey, let's include this as a non-negotiable thing we do in the season, that we go in scrimmage before we go to an actual competition. And then let that drive the design. And in the design cycle, because like back at that year where I was working out as Katy STEM Center, it was a really small team. Like all the kids except for one who didn't want to be on the drive team ended up on the drive team. So we didn't do scouting or anything. And so necessarily they had a very unambitious design, and they got it done really early, and we just iterated the heck out of it. And like bag night, we left at like 10, and everybody out there was going, "What are you guys doing?" It's like, "Well, they've been practicing all night. They're bored. We're going home," you know. And actually, that was actually the most fun year we had, because at the competitions, other than getting our bumpers right at that competition, after that, it was just peeling Velcro off and putting on different Velcro that somebody else gave us and said, "Hey, try this," you know. And we weren't, you know, because everything was proven, really, really proven. We didn't have to fix anything. We didn't have to, you know, adjust anything. It was just trying to make minor improvements. And in a way, it was kind of boring at the competition, but a nice kind of boring.
Yeah, I'm hoping that our team has learned our lesson about bag day being gone and working until the last minute, because even with our 9-week build season, the students were still trying to pull all-nighters the days before we loaded up for the event. And it's not sustainable. And I think having scrimmages is a good way to demonstrate to the students, like, there is value in being done before the due date as they think about it.
And much as like we keep saying scrimmages, it's super rare. Even as we've been going to people's fields for, I don't know, 8 years basically since I took over a Spectrum, and we've gone to people's fields. It's super rare that we ever play anything close to a 3-on-3 match, even if we have 7 or 8 teams at the event. Right? It's the important part is just getting your drivers on a full field or something close, half field, whatever it is, and just getting them that experience behind something close to a driver station, and actually driving your robot, unlike testing your robot in your shop, which is a very different experience.
I've also had, back in the day when Texas Robot Roundup was a week 0 instead of an off-season event.
I remember
that. We showed up to that, and our robot didn't even go on the field because our Jaguars were all wired backwards. So as soon as we powered it on, they all exploded. But the backing up the robot and bringing it to a place, and then realizing that it didn't work, and then packing it back up again and bringing it home and having a thing to fix was incredibly valuable.
That is very valuable.
And so I think and I don't know how far I'm going to have to travel to do this, but I really want to find a licensed inspector that I can just say, we're coming to your house and we need you to do an unofficial inspection. Here's the robot.
There's
Is it good?
multiple trained inspectors in Austin.
Yeah. See, this is the problem. Is do I need to drive it all the way to Houston to be like, Alan, is our robot good?
I mean, I'll meet you halfway. Again, we can work something out, but also hopefully no.
Josh,
there's some real nice barbecue places in Austin, you know.
Josh, Lady Cans has a robot inspector.
Oh man, that's marvelous. And y'all have a awesome space. So yeah, if y'all are okay with us packing up our robot and driving it down to the Girl Scout Center and being like, is this robot good?
Dripping Springs
that would help us out a lot.
So, there is a full list of trained inspectors for an event not far from Austin.
Because we had, even until the last minute, I was like, hey, the pneumatics work. I'm pretty sure this isn't going to pass inspection. But they're going to tell us when we get there what we need to change.
Ouch.
Well, and Alan, haven't you even done, obviously it's not optimal, but done basically some inspections via, video chat or something like that, right?
Yeah, it's super easy. If you can get near a robot, I mean, if you just send me pictures, I can tell you what's wrong with robots. It's pretty fast. You send me detailed enough pictures, I'm like, nope. It is nicer to be able to actually measure things, but.
And it's obviously good practice for the other local inspectors too to go see some robots and realize what they may need to think a little bit about. But I guess the catch-22 is make sure that you know what inspector you're going to, because it could go the other way where now the inspector has all the time in the world, and maybe they're looking a little bit harder and closer and giving you things at a competition they may not care about. But I'm sure as you build up relations with inspectors, you know what you're getting if you're asking them for looking at stuff.
I should hope a pre-inspection is very straightforward and educates the team about what the rules say, and we don't end up in a situation where that person sees them later at competition and is extra hard on them. That would be unfortunate.
Yeah, that would not be great.
Well, the first year I worked as an inspector, I had to be the bad man to tell two teams that their battery mounting systems were unacceptable, that they would not be allowed on the field. But that was before districts. And so they spent that whole practice day, or a lot of the practice day, fixing it. And in some instances, they still weren't done. So the lead inspector told me and various other inspectors, okay, now go help them get it legal, because they're coming back with alternate schemes that still aren't legal. Right? Well, now with the district system, you don't have that time. You got to be able to show up and put it on the field and run. So if you show up with stuff that's massively illegal, you're doomed.
You still have a little bit of time. It is doable to get people repaired and ready. We did it at events, and we do it. Yeah, I mean, you still have to do it. It's just harder.
Yeah.
But we're getting more teams are coming prepared. Like 118 this year showed up to Plano with like rolls of already sewn reversible bumper fabrics. They could make bumpers really fast. Like we're planning to have our kid, like each one of my kids next year is going to make bumper L's, and then those will just be the ones we give away. Like that is part of your training process now.
We've been.
I like to make bumpers for training.
Yeah,
really good idea.
One of their rules is that they have to make a 6-inch by 6-inch bumper L, and then if all 20 of my kids do that, we now have 5 sets of bumper L's.
One of the required things for going to competition is each.
So, Alan, how are we going to decide on the topics for 2 weeks from now?
Oh, that's a good question.
No, glad I thought of it. Glad I thought of it now instead of 2 weeks from now.
Yeah, I figured next Sunday we would talk. I don't know. That's a good question. Things that we can talk about. So yeah, talking about at some point, one of these will be talking about how people are looking at challenging 2021, but I don't know if we want to do that until later. In with the whole not having to rebuild a robot, but possibly rebuilding a robot. What else? So Lucia and who else did you say was coming on?
Chris Cadell.
Chris Cadell, and that's like 5 minutes.
Right. Okay. So they'll intro into what next year's season stuff is. Is there any specific things that people want to talk about? Some of these can be more presentation based, less discussion. Like it's fine. We can do different things.
If someone wants to demo Onshape, I would watch a demo of Onshape.
But Ricky, is Ricky still here?
Ricky is still here. I don't know if he's listening.
Yes, absolutely. Just let me know.
I'd kind of like to see that because, I mean, y'all are talking about it, and I've been using SolidWorks for 10 years.
Yeah, there are some things in Onshape that are really, really cool where you can like feature script and do things all programmatically, which is awesome, where you can make pulleys of infinite sizes and things really fast. And then it's still newish and missing some features that I'm just like, wait, why?
Yeah, one of the features I exploited, not this past season, the previous season when I was working with Duchesne, they lost everybody, mentors and students who knew CAD. And I was the only person who had any 3D CAD experience. Normally I work with electrical CAD, which is totally different. But I had used Onshape to go design stuff for myself, for my own project. So I said, okay, here's your options. I'll try and teach you what I know, or you go and learn whatever you want on your own. And they said, okay, we want you to teach Onshape. And so one evening, two of the students who wanted to do the CAD and we were all each in our own homes, and all kind of logged in to work on the same parts. And then they used Microsoft Teams as their school kind of communication system, and that works a lot like Skype or Slack. And so we had a conference call on that. So I'd go and manipulate the thing and say, so this is how you do this. Like you've watched the videos. This is now here. I'm working on an actual robot chassis. These are so they could see my cursor moving around, doing things on something much more relevant to what they would be working on. And I could show them, I've set up this structure for saving away the parts and then saving away the assemblies and so on. Because that's like in the Onshape training videos, they talk about setting up, part studios and, assemblies and all that. But you want to do it a certain way for working on your robot, and especially if you're going to share it with other people. So I was able to walk them through that live, in addition to them watching watching all the different training videos. Now we didn't get to do any of the really, really fancy stuff, partly because we're not trying to do anything that ambitious, and we just didn't have the skill level. But that seemed kind of valuable, a valuable way of using the tool. And especially I think with, COVID and all that, I don't know that we're all going to be able to all sit in one room a lot. So that's kind of a feature of this particular tool that you might be able to exploit to keep making progress on teaching CAD.
Well, Phil, I think that's a good point you just made there. It's not even necessarily that we can't all sit in the same room. It's that until we have some way to actually end this, which we don't know when that happens, the safest thing we can do is reduce the number of contacts and the amount of time we spend together to only when we need to do it. So this is kind of a cool tool that allows us to take this super important part of the robot, and it doesn't have to be done in person, right? That saves the limited amount of in-person time units that we get, or that we should use, for actual things we need to do in person.
And even if you can be in the same room, unless you say, Rachel, or you're teaching and you have access to a projector that everyone can work on or that can see, then you can't see what they're doing. They can't really see what you're doing. And then at various points, I'd shown them, like, this is what us mentors are supposed to do. You show them something and then you watch them do it. I said, okay, you take control and you go and try and do this to this part. And then I tell them, okay, no, you got to go and click over on that corner instead of the corner you're clicking on. So I could see what they were doing and I could give them real-time feedback. And then the other student would take over and she would try it. So that I found, it was really intriguing. We kind of just fell into it because we couldn't really find a good time to actually meet.
So yeah, I'd like to hear or see some of the Onshape, some of that demonstrated a little bit, just basics of using it, and then maybe what are some of the advantages, disadvantages. That would be helpful for me.
Yeah. We can definitely do a whole, for next week, or next, I guess, 2 weeks from now, we can talk about Onshape and talk about other sort of CAD design practices and working with the team to actually, how we break out and do the whole robot design part of it as well. So I know that was a couple of things that we got back in the survey was how do you manage an entire team doing the robot design and stuff?
I can share a little bit about how we do. We have a numbering system and some general CAD practices. And one of the kids put together a really nice presentation years ago, and I've been using it ever since with the students at some point or another. So we could kind of go through that really quickly and share kind of what our CAD standards, I guess,
Yeah,
is
I
the
love
way
that,
to
Scott.
say it.
I know that we've struggled a lot with like how do we name it and how do we get it through the machining process and track it from like, is it designed, is it machined, did an adjustment get done to the design and we need to remachine it or whatever, things like that. That's been
we have a system, but I don't love ours. I'd love to hear other people's.
Well, ours is probably very similar to what 148 does because James Tontat instigated it. But I'm really happy with it, and I'm using it at the place where I work now. That's how we keep track of subsystems and everything when I'm working.
One little plug for Onshape is it's still a little early, but they have a feature script that automatically part numbers for you.
I don't want that.
Okay.
But it was written by an FRC team. Like it's specific.
It's not just a random thing. It's specifically written, and you can change the code for how you want. Yeah.
Okay. Well, then
you like set stuff up. Like that's like the feature script stuff is one of the coolest things in Onshape for sure. Like you can do like they have like a hole pattern one now, so you can do like you just draw out however big your tube is. You can tell it every like hole you want on it. So you want to make like VersaFrame style, or set your hole patterns on every face. It'll just do it for you. So you don't have to go through and do all the individual patterning. You don't have to do any of that.
Okay,
you can build an elevator stage and just with 4 rectangles, and then poof, it's now an elevator stage.
Oh yeah, and you can like there's a whole elevator like tweak design where you can just like put in what dimensions you want for the elevator, and it just like now you have an elevator if you want to build a great elevator or whatever it is. The feature script stuff is really cool.
Anyway,
okay,
we'll save that for 2 weeks from now.
Yeah, all right. So that'll be 2 weeks from now then.
Something I'd be interested in, for 2 weeks from now is how, like over the summer and through the fall, where there's still probably going to be restrictions on group sizes and all that kind of stuff. That's typically when teams do a lot of their training of the new students and retraining of returning students. Like I'd be interested in what people's thoughts are on how that's done. Like some things like the programming and the CAD, there are ways of doing it more remotely where you don't really have to be in the same room. But things like doing electrical, how you go and use a saw or drill press, that's more difficult. And I'd be interested in what people's thoughts are on that.
So I can address that also with a little bit, because this part of this PPE effort that we've been doing, I have to show people how to do certain tasks because they don't come to my house and do these things. They do them away from my house. So I have these little YouTube videos and the kids watch it and then they go, okay, well I can recreate that. So whole families are, gathered around a table and, cutting PPE stuff. But I create a little video that's a little instructional video, and they're kind of fun. And so that's something I can actually do, like if I wanted to do that with a drill press. So we could look at that a little bit, maybe even have something by then.
I agree you can make like a little video, but what I've noticed is when you go and use power tools, a lot of these students have never picked up a power tool, and when that drill bit grabs or whatever, that really freaks some of them out, and that's really hard to get across in a video.
Yeah,
like with Duchesne, they had this chop saw that was really meant for wood. Whoever the previous mentors were all woodworking nuts, and all their equipment was woodworking oriented, adapted to cutting metal. So their bandsaw really went way too fast, and they had this chop saw that spun at outrageous speeds. And
so even when I'm doing in-person training,
using this stuff.
Yeah. So even when I'm doing in-person training, I'm very sensitive to that also, because I think that a lot of people get scared by the tool, and so I don't know how to recreate this in the real world, but I do think that that also needs to be a part of the line of the video, right? When I do it in person, I say, look, when I pull this, it's gonna jerk a little bit, and I do it, and I just don't control my arm very hard, and see it just so they can see it, it's gonna kick, right? And just kind of prepare them mentally for what they're gonna see, what they're gonna hear, what they're gonna feel before they do the activity. And so I think that putting a little extra language into the video will help put them in the right mindset at least.
Yeah, because I see students holding down the workpiece with just their fingertips.
Yep.
You know, it's like that's going to rip out of your hand. You know?
Right. But again, you still, even with as many videos you want, it's the videos are there to like make it faster for when you do still have to do some in person, right? Like,
yes,
the first time they use a drill press is not going to be unsupervised, no matter how many videos or anything they watch, right?
Correct.
Like that should not be ever the plan.
You would think.
But that first time that they use that drill press should not be, you know, the first Saturday or Sunday in next January. You know, that's what I'm getting at.
We don't know what it's going to be like.
We don't know what we aren't prepared for any of that, right? Like, if schools aren't open, the schools aren't open, right?
Yeah. We may go to a week of school and then it's canceled.
Right. Yeah. We have no idea. That's hard to plan for. So we adjust where we can. But having the videos available, making it easier, that type of stuff is useful.
So it's going to be even more nuts for FTC.
I think that is one of the big things. If people are making videos and stuff for their teams, the more we can have them shared either in the Slack or on here, or whatever we can do, that is valuable so people can use different ones. So we're not all recreating. Like, some of it will be recreation, it's fine. But the more we can do and share and help each other out, the better.
Okay. Well, I feel pretty good about 2 weeks from now, and I'm going to have to bow out, I think.
Yeah.
So,
okay. I think designing the robot together is a good theme for 2 weeks from now.
Yeah. Okay, we'll work on that. And for me, I don't know if you guys are going to hang out still, but for me, it was great getting to see a bunch of people because, you know, I'm kind of tired of seeing my wife and my daughter.
It's a lot of together time. Yes,
it is.
I'm gonna drop off too.
Scott,
thank you guys so much
from the recording.
My daughter was out of the country for 3 years, and now she's back.
There's hardly anybody in at work when I go to work now.
Yeah. All right. Good night,
Bye.
everybody.
Good night.
Thanks,
Thank
y'all.
you for putting this on tonight. I appreciate it.
Anyone have any other questions before we log off?
That seemed to go reasonably well. There were more people here than I thought, and it seemed like a lot of people stuck around.
Yeah, I think it's doing what it's supposed to, giving, hopefully sharing some ideas.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if I like Google Meet, but that's a different problem. That's a my choice issue.
If desired, I can generate Zoom links or whatever too. We've got the
right. I can do Zoom too. I've just been trying to figure out if it is the best one.
Yeah, that's fair.
Like I like certain features are cool. I actually really enjoy the transcription. That's
I think the group was more geographically diverse than previous because, you know, in the past you had to come to somewhere in Houston.
That is very true. We did not get Seth from California though, and we've had Seth from California for the last like 3 of our ones in Houston. So I think actually everyone in here was from Texas. Surprisingly, there were at least 2 people who were like, "Hey, I can come, right?" And I'm like, "Sure, you're from Louisiana, but I don't care."
Okay, well, I'm going to stop the recording, and then, Alan, do you want me to send you the recording or just put it up on our YouTube and send it to you? I'm okay with anything.
If you can figure out how to send it to me, because I think I own it. Do we own the Texas Mentors YouTube? I think Andy does, maybe?
Okay. Yeah,
I didn't
I'll
really
just drop
want
it in like Google Drive and send it to you.
Yeah, I didn't really care for it to be hosted on any Teams page, because I feel like it's kind of sometimes awkward.
Yeah, I agree with that.